organise it and do it now.
Yeah, we'll do that now then, right?
Right.
He was my mate, and I was concerned for him. Definitely, and I wanted to do the best I could for him.
OK, Patsy, that's your lot. Up you go.
This won't work unless you shorten the chains up to the very last.
There is no more on that, Patsy. You're going to have to take it up now.
The lad wasn't altogether accustomed with the chain shorteners, and it was very difficult to get through to him.
I'm just wasting me time, Nick. Unless you do what I tell you, it won't work, mate.
Is there anything more we can do for him?
Just get him down. We really need to go.
If we didn't get him down, he was going to die there. He really was going to die there.
That'll do. I'm sure that's high enough.
You're going to be in a hurry, but it won't work. I'm not taking the skip up unless you shorten them chains.
Patsy, that's as short as they get. Up they go.
At last.
As the skip began to rise, it soon became obvious why Patsy had insisted on the chains being shortened. He was the only one to realise that the chains had to be shorter than normal to stand any chance of getting the skip up level with the top platform where John was lying. But it was still going to be a tricky manoeuvre.
Closer. Okay.
If it hadn't worked, it would have been a nightmare for me. You've got the emergency services there standing by. You know, there's a man's life at stake, and timing is imperative. And if that doesn't work, how would anybody feel?
Okay, John. Now we've got to lie you down.
You should never, ever lie a cardiac patient down flat whilst they're actually having this heart attack.
We've got no other way of doing it.
Because it's actually making the heart work more when it's struggling to work as it is now.
2, 3.
But it was the only means of getting him into the stretcher. I was just so frightened that he was going to go into cardiac arrest. The rescue was a bad enough problem as it was. Without that, that would have been terrible.
The Golden Rules of Comedy, weeknights from 9 on UK TV Gold.
Hello, Direct Line. How can I help?
I need a loan for this fantastic car I found. Now, I've checked out my bank, but what can you do?
Let's see. You can borrow up to £25,000 for almost any purpose. And if you're looking around, you want a rate that's really smashing, with fixed repayments that never change. Our typical rate is just 6.6% APR, and you could get the loan approved in just one call.
On 0800 068 7272 now.
That's brilliant.
That's 0800 068 7272 for low-cost loan. Good thinking from Direct Line.
Do you suffer from back pain or restless sleep? If your mattress is too old, too hard or too soft, just lying on it can create painful pressure points. The Temper mattress, however, spreads your weight evenly, easing pressure. Developed for the space program, the Temper material actually molds itself to your shape, giving you all the support you need. Try it yourself for 60 nights with our money-back guarantee. Call 08000 11 1075 now.
Bangkok happens to be my favourite artist and all.
Canaletto. The Boss is never right. A Golden Rule of Comedy from UK TV Gold tonight from 9.
Once John was strapped into the stretcher, they came to the most difficult part of the rescue.
OK, you go over to the skip first, and I'll pass him to you.
You just be sure to hug the skip.
You know, I'm now an absolute nervous wreck. I'm shaking, I can't breathe properly, I can't talk properly.
Just be sure to hug the skip.
Got it.
Just hug the skip. Okay? Ready? Okay.
Fear's not the word. I mean, I was absolutely petrified.
Oh, gee.
To step off the side of 180 foot. And it just sounds crazy to even think about it now. just to step off the side, a good gust of wind, 180 foot, believe me, it's windy up there, and you can just be blown away.
Nearly there.
Got me? I'm in.
Oh, wouldn't do it again. I couldn't do that again. Not walk off the side like that.
Moving in from the safety of the crane tower into the skip was quite a nervy moment.
The biggest problem was getting him halfway and that skip moving.
Yeah, keep pulling, Nigel. Okay.
If the skip had actually moved, we could have lost him off the side.
Alright, just breathe nice and easy.
It was spinning round and I was just trying to look at John's face as close as I can so I could blot everything out.
Just breathe the same as I told you before.
The adrenaline's pumping again. You know, you're on the move and you're going down and traumatic, to say the least.
Right, Steve, lost 10 feet.
Okay.
That bump I'd been waiting for a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
For a moment I lost it again. I was just so happy to be down. I'd say I could just felt like crying.
John O'Keefe was taken to hospital, where he made a complete recovery.
I thought, what a bloody place to die. Of all the places in the world to choose to die, look where I am. Of a cold morning, with those pains in my chest. I never had them before. I'm looking across London, and London started to move. Smaller, smaller, closing in, till it comes to a little dot. I thought that was me. Gone from this world, and that's true. I thought that was the end. Simple as that. He was a little hero.
What helps here now, John?
I've been 30 years on sites, and I know that there's 2/3 of the people on that site, although they work on the floor, but they wouldn't climb that crane.
I'm going to give you oxygen, John, to help you with your breathing.
It was an achievement in his own for him to get up there, never mind to attend to somebody. So I thought he was excellent little lad, yeah. What should I say? I'm around today. Somebody saved me. Either that, the man up there didn't want me. He had enough crane drivers.
John O'Keefe's heart attack came out of the blue and left his workmates fighting to save his life. More than 150,000 people die of heart attacks in Britain every year, but as many as 10,000 deaths could be avoided if immediate first aid was given to all the victims. By knowing how to recognize and deal with a heart attack, you could help save a life. The Resuscitation Council UK has this advice. Heart attacks vary in severity. They're not always life-threatening, but it's important to recognize any signs as soon as possible. The most obvious is a pain in the center of the chest. This can feel like a band being gradually tightened. The pain sometimes spreads to the left arm, the throat or the back. It won't start suddenly, but builds up slowly over a period of minutes. It'll probably be accompanied by other symptoms like breathlessness, nausea, sweating and faintness. So always take these symptoms seriously. The first thing to do is to get help. If you can, send someone else to phone for an ambulance. But make sure they explain that it's a suspected heart attack and always ask them to come back and tell you that help is on the way. Loosen any tight clothing. Keep the person warm and try to help them to sit up. A half-sitting position with support under the knees is often the most comfortable and should help to ease the pressure on the heart. Don't give anything to eat or drink, not even water. But if you have an aspirin, offer it and let the casualty chew it slowly. Unlike other painkillers, aspirin thins the blood and prevents clots from forming. But be careful not to give aspirin if they're allergic to it or have a history of bleeding disorders or stomach ulcers. The main risk during any heart attack is that the casualty will have a cardiac arrest, when the heart suddenly stops beating. If this happens, both the breathing and pulse will stop, so watch them all the time, and if they lose consciousness, be ready to perform the ABC of resuscitation. A. Open the airway. B. Check for breathing, and if it's stopped, start mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. C. Check the circulation. If there isn't a pulse, start chest compressions. If you don't know how to do the ABC of resuscitation, learn it on a first aid course. It enables you to keep their brain supplied with oxygen until the ambulance arrives and gives them a chance of making a full recovery. The ambulance will be equipped with a special machine called a defibrillator. This is used to monitor all suspected heart attack victims and can start the heart beating normally with an electric shock. This is quite a disturbing sight, particularly if it's happening to someone you know. But remember, your prompt action can mean the difference between life and death.
The thing that probably surprised you most about that was the advice about aspirin. Tests show that taking an aspirin within 24 hours of the first symptoms of a heart attack can substantially increase the chances of survival. But remember, giving an aspirin to somebody who's allergic to them, who suffers from bleeding disorders or from stomach ulcers, can do more harm than good. So be careful and only offer an aspirin after medical advice. All around our coast, lifeboats like this, manned by volunteer crews, save more than 1,000 lives a year. Most of their work happens miles offshore and is rarely seen, but one recent rescue was captured in its entirety on video. That was possible because the lifeboat, which is designed for the deep sea, had to operate this time in dangerously shallow water in a bay close to land and was watched by people on the island of St. Mary's. It's the largest of the Isles of Scilly here, which are about 30 miles or so from the mainland. They have their fair share of high seas, but they're popular with experienced sailors from the mainland. In this reconstruction, the solo yachtsman Roger Adcock is played by an actor, but all the lifeboatmen are those who made the actual rescue that day.
My job on the lifeboat as acting mechanic is to make sure the boat is ready to run to sea 24 hours a day. Scilly is a very tranquil and peaceful place, but every now and again all hell lets loose.
My responsibility as coxswain is the safety of the boat and the crew, making all the decisions when we go to sea. I'm a fisherman by trade, know the rocks around Scilly and the tide pretty well by now. Catches a lot of mainland people out. Used to sheltered waters and come out in open sea, and the tide running against wind.
I'm the second coxswain. If Barry's away fishing, I'm the next bloke to cox a boat. I've always worked on boats in one way or another. I find it very easy to paint them, having been sat on board of them for what feels like 24 hours a day for the last 15 years.
That day, Roger Adcock had sailed here alone.
I left Falmouth, I think it was a Thursday night, because I arrived here on the Friday morning. We'd been through a couple of rough spells, the boat was rolling. It went all through the night, then the weather started changing.
Roger found what he thought would be a safe anchorage in Porthcresser Bay.
I decided to stay there against moving round to St. Mary's, and that's when the trouble started.
When the yacht went there, it was probably a reasonable place to go because the wind seemed to be more up into the northeast. By the time it had swung and settled towards the south, there was no way for the boat to come out. It was just too bad.
I was just sitting down listening to the football or to the radio all afternoon. It was rolling lots, so I just jammed myself in. I couldn't do much else.
Roger was a stranger to the place, and it all took over before he could do much about it.
All right, John? Yeah, all right, Bernie. Yeah, there you are, Barry. You can see him there. Ain't looking very good, is it?
I don't like to look at it at all.
Barry, the lifeboat coxswain, and the Honorary Secretary, John Nichols, had to decide whether to attempt a rescue.
The situation is getting worse. We think we will launch immediately. Could you please activate my cruise bleepers right away, please? Thank you.
Falmouth Coast Guard, roger out.
That's a lifeboat, Marines. It's probably for that yacht.
Oh, I hope there's no
Got a camera.
Richie Christopher had been a lifeboatman himself and knew the yacht he began to film was in trouble.
Waves started breaking, the rollers were coming in. As long as it was rolling, there was no problem. It was just when the surf was breaking outside that the problem was, when we started taking the water.
The grass is now becoming a little bit slippy, and that rain continues to drive to...
Very nice of you. Right, guys. We go.
The crew launched a boarding boat to get them out to the lifeboat itself in a matter of seconds.
You felt practically useless, really, because there was nothing you could really do. You wanted to be doing something. You think, you know, if I could swim out there and help the guy, or if I could row out in a boat, you know, I mean, it was a horrible day and there were some nasty waves. So the only people that was going to help the man was the lifeboat crew.
So far, attempts to contact the yacht by radio had failed, and conditions were getting worse all the time. Roger himself now realised the seriousness of his position.
This wave came in, and then the second or third came over. Once it started breaking over the stern, the water was just coming in. I couldn't get rid of it.
We headed straight off round to the bay. From outside looking in, it didn't look very nice at all. It was breaking virtually all the way in, and it was not a pretty sight.
I never realised how serious it was. I just didn't think anything would happen. I had to do something. I was trying to work out what really, and I noticed the lifeboat coming. I felt terrible when I saw the lifeboat. As if it was all your own fault, you shouldn't have been there. That was the worst I felt about the whole event, really. It is a guilt that I think you should look after yourself and not expect people to risk their lives just to get you out of the mess.
Distress yacht in Port Crescent Bay. This is St. Mary's lifeboat on Channel 16. Do you receive, over?
At last, Roger heard the radio.
Do you receive, over? This is St. Mary's lifeboat calling. Do you receive, over? Lifeboat, this is yacht in Port Crescent Bay. Over. We're going to come and approach you now. Would you please get up on deck, ready to receive the line, over? Okay, I'm coming up on deck now.
I was terribly worried about him because he was there on his own. He'd been sat there watching the situation worsen. I have a little boat of my own, and I know that the last thing you want to do is to call somebody if you got into trouble.
The sea was building up in sets of about sort of 3 or 4, maybe 5 big waves. And as the tide was dropping, so they were getting bigger and eventually started breaking right where the yacht was anchored. So the yacht was taking the full force of the waves hitting into the side of it. I just kept the camera fixed in one spot, trying to hold it still with the very gusty weather conditions.
The one thing that was on my mind the whole time once we entered into Port Crescent was the fact that it was very tight for the water depth. but our coxswain's a crabber, and they work in tight to rock, and he knew what he was doing from above.
Less than 5 feet of water and the lifeboat could hit the bottom.
You could feel or hear the gravel in the wash of the water going away from the propellers, which said, okay, we're pulling very close to the bottom.
The crew were now risking their lives.
Barry manoeuvred the boat in, and we decided to get a line onto the yacht, pull him out clear and sort him out in calmer water. Eventually, with 2 or 3 attempts, got the first heaving line into the cockpit of the yacht, which was very difficult to aim at. He was just pulling it into the boat. A batch of 3 waves came through and knocked the boat virtually on its side, and the heaving line must have parted out or something.
Line's gone, Barry.
I must have seen the waves coming, because several times I ducked down. I went in the water and could only assume I was under shock, because it seemed almost in slow motion. And again, it was just smooth and gradual. Surreal almost.
As Roger tried desperately to get out of the freezing water, the biggest wave yet caught the yacht. It started to break up.
I heard the crack of the mast go, and I thought, well, this is really turning very ugly now, and at the same time the coxswain called down and said, let him know we're going to take him off.
Okay, we're going to take you off now. What?
The lifeboat now had to maneuver in closer than ever to the yacht. They hung protective fenders over the side in case the 2 boats actually collided. Roger was about to do something they hadn't expected.
I think they were going to take me off to the side, but I didn't realise that. I seemed to think when it came that I couldn't get up there. It looked awful big boat. It seemed to be 8-10 foot in the air. But then suddenly we seemed to be on the same level. The bow just came across in front of me. So I just reached up and grabbed hold of it.
Jump, Joe, get it!
Roger was hanging between the boats and could have been crushed at any moment. The lifeboat crew had to act quickly.
The guide leapt up and took us all by surprise, really. Although we were expecting him to get on board, we weren't expecting it quite so quick.
When I saw them pull him up over the bow, I felt I don't really call it lump in the throat for a minute. Blokes don't cry, do they? Supposedly. This one does.
Only moments later, Roger's yacht was completely swamped by a series of powerful waves.
I realised how lucky I was. It was, I think, a minute after when I got out and when the boat went down. That's cutting's a bit fine. It's just the build-up of waves here, it's one after the other, and then she slowly goes over. And it's sickening now, seeing that. All the work you spent on it and everything just written off in 2 seconds. They were operating in very shallow water. I think they had a metre under them, something like that. Boat should never have been there. But if it wasn't, of course, I'd be dead.
Right, one more. Here we go.
All the crew of the St. Mary's lifeboat that day were given bravery awards for the rescue.
Joe, can you put your collar down? I can't see your face. That was the idea, Frank. Yeah, that was the idea, was it? Right, this way. Good. Oh, I got a white now. Right, and again. Nice one. Well done.
I expect to come back next year. I've got to, I think, to lay the ghost. Otherwise I'll never sail again.
Can I help you?
Every time a call's answered in an ambulance control room, it means someone somewhere needs help. This week's Lifesaver story tells what happened as a result of just one of these calls, one which was routinely recorded. Leah McKee from Dursley in Gloucestershire was forced to dial 999 because of these apparently harmless polystyrene balls that are used to stuff bean bags. Her 2-year-old son, Luke, had managed to open one of these bean bags while he was playing in his bedroom with near fatal results. We've used an actress and her son in our reconstruction, but the telephone conversation you'll hear is the real 999 call, which was answered by ambulance control man Bob Eilert. In the minutes that followed, Leah was forced to draw on her memories of a first aid course that she'd attended when she was only 13 years old.
Well, it was just an ordinary day, like any other. Luke was playing. I was doing the housework. I just finished the ironing. Luke was in his bedroom, just sat on his beanbag, and I heard him cry. And then he just stopped, and I just knew something was wrong. And I ran into the bedroom, pulled him out, but he was just unconscious by then. And I just really panicked, ran downstairs with him to call the ambulance.
Your name, please?
Mrs. McKay.
Okay, we'll have somebody on the way to
What
you.
shall I do? He's gone blue. He's swallowed things.
He's swallowed...
Out of a polystyrene beanbag.
Yeah, okay, can you see anything in the mouth?
Oh gosh, I can't open his mouth. While I was talking to Bob on the phone, Luke had been breathing. He's breathing very difficult, very shallow. He suddenly just stopped breathing and he was just dying in front of me. And I didn't know what to do. I was so frightened. He's got a very peculiar colour.
He's got a peculiar... Is he breathing all right now?
He's having a lot of trouble.
He's having a lot of trouble to breathe. Okay, then. Right. If you could help him with his breathing, okay? Okay, just try and take a gently little breath.
I did a Red Cross course when I was younger. We did resuscitation on a dummy. And that really did stick in my mind because they do look like real people. But it's completely different when it's your own child in front of you and he's not breathing.
How's it going now?
He's sounding a bit better now.
He's sounding a bit better, good. Watch his breathing, okay? They get into everything, don't they, these 2-year-olds?
Okay. It was Bob really that prompted me. I just couldn't remember a thing. Seeing Luke there and being, you know, my own son, it was just so frightening.
Is he coming round at all?
Yes, he's still breathing.
Still breathing, oh, smashing, that's all right.
I think the ambulance is here.
Oh, that's good, okay.
If I hadn't been able to talk to Bob on the phone, I don't know if Luke would be alive today, because I was just very frightened and so panicked at seeing Luke like that, in that situation. And Bob was he was just a friend when I needed him, and I could talk to him.
Take a ride before bedtime. Top Gear, Car Heaven at 11, tonight on UK TV People.
My job is to sell the miracle in the bottle. Lose weight fast with Miracle Diet 3000. People will pay anything to look thinner, more beautiful. You know, there's a lot of fat people out there. I don't really care, you know. As long as the money comes in, I'm happy, you know what I mean? You know, if they're rich or poor, doesn't matter. What counts is they have to pay. After that, who cares?
Be smarter with your money with an egg card. You'll get 0% interest on balance transfers until the 1st of December 2005, and 0% interest on all purchases until the 1st of December 2005. Plus up to 10% cash back from selected online retailers. Apply now at eggcard.com.
When the itching of athlete's foot drives you up the walls, nothing works faster than Lamisil 81% spray. In just 7 sprays, it starts to kill the fungus that causes athlete's foot and provides protection from reoccurrence for up to 2 months. Lamisil 80, effective after just 7 sprays. Nothing works faster.
My time is weeknights from 10 on UK TV Style.
Walking around derelict dockland like this, you have to keep your wits about you. There are so many things you can trip over, fall into. For a young child, though, the risks might not be so readily apparent. They tend to look on these places as adventure playgrounds, so many things to explore. Young children are naturally curious, naturally adventurous. And despite all our best efforts as parents, they can so easily get into trouble. A 3-year-old from Manchester, Luke Doyle, found himself fighting for his life in a place very much like this one when he went off for an adventure with his best friend Max.
Luke and Max the dog. It was an unbelievable relationship. They were just like one. You couldn't separate them.
You're special, Daddy Max. Very special to me.
That day, Christine left Luke playing downstairs while she got on with some housework.
I should have known he could reach the door handle. But the week before, he couldn't reach that door handle.
Luke! What are you up to down there? You're very quiet. Luke? Luke? Luke?
Children of that age hide
Luke?
and don't answer you when you shout them. But he wasn't in the house. I was so scared and everything. You don't have one feeling, you have lots of feelings. You're very mixed up.
Police. My name's Christine Doyle. I live at 24 Cleve Road off City Road, Old Trafford. Little boy's gone missing, he's only 3. I've got Chester Road, I've got Stretford Road, I've got buses and lorries. I've got him here. He's been missing about half an hour. He's only 3. My little lad.
Okay, it's all right.
The dog's with him and he's never done it before.
All right, Mrs. Doyle. You come and have a sit down.
You put on a roll when you put the uniform on.
You sit down. Now then. They see the uniform, they don't see you. And not that you hide behind it, but it gives you that distance that you need to do your job properly. So that's the most recent one. And this is the dog, is it? And you think
Big
the dog...
road's out there.
I know, but listen.
He's only little, he doesn't know about road.
They worked out later that Luke must have crossed at least 2 busy main roads that day.
If anything bad had happened, we'd have heard by now. All right. Okay.
If I had thought that he was dead, I would have gone completely berserk. I knew wherever the dog was, Luke would be. The dog wouldn't have left Luke. No way would that dog have left him.
Why don't you come inside and have a cup of tea? It's freezing out here. You kept him in your desk.
Hey, it's our Craig. Hey, come here!
Craig turned up and there was no Luke, and then I got rather scared.
He left the back gate open, he left the back door open, now Luke's gone missing, he's taken the dog with him, I don't know where the hell he's got to! What the hell do you think you're doing?
I've got any idea where your brother had gone to?
He might have at the old docks.
What, Pomona dock?
Yeah, near the fishing pit. Well, you want to go that far?
No, I told him, I said, don't be stupid. He wouldn't go. He couldn't go that far, he wouldn't remember going there, because he's only been once or twice, Luke, before with him fishing.
If I said 1 for 5 to Mike 1.
I'm going to go and look for him, Mum. Don't worry, Mum, we'll find him,
Would it
it's
be
all
possible
right.
to ask a car to go to Pomona dock regarding the 3-year-old missing?
Take care!
All right, Christine. Come on, you come on inside and get yourself a cup of tea. The longer a child is missing, the more worried we become. I can only begin to imagine what a nightmare it was for Mrs. Doyle. In the back of your mind, you've always got the worry that it isn't going to turn out well, and that the child has been hurt, and that you're going to have to break that news to the mum.
Pomona Dock is a disused stretch of canal in the centre of Manchester. By chance, John Redican and Joe Speakman were there taking a break from working on a dredging boat at the far end of the docks. With Jason Hart, they'd been pumping away years of accumulated mud and silt. The dredging had lowered the water level of the dock. Their work that morning was nearly finished. In an hour's time, they'd be flooding the dock again.
What's he doing there? Come on, boy. Come on. Go on, lad. Try and get him out. No, keep the bump up, it'll scare him off. Oh, yeah. Try and get out.
The dog would not come up. We tried everything, short of throwing sticks at it. It just would not move.
Come on, boy.
At first, there seemed no reason why Max wouldn't move off the mudflats exposed by the dredging work.
Come on, boy. Come on. Come on. Hey, there's a kid in there. Here we go again. He's right.
I just did not see the kid. He was so still. And all the crud and litter around, like, you know, he just blended in so effectively with it, like, you know, if you'd have camouflaged him, you couldn't have done a better job, really, like, you know. If those sluice gates had been opened, we wouldn't have seen him. The water would have covered him there and then.
What was that jump, John? Anything you get? Polish as well. Thank you.
Started making like a bridge to support the weight, so we could get out to him without sinking.
Got them tires, Joe. Now, Chase.
And we just got as close as we could, and we'd run out of stuff.
Right to me.
Joe started ripping the bridge up at the back of us to get further forward, to get to the child.
On a pallet, mate.
You didn't think of anything. That was it. That was priority. Get him out. There was no movement from him. No noise, no nothing. Just
You'll be okay.
two eyes staring. Really, really icy stare. When we got his arms out of the mud and we saw his hands, that's when he realised he must have only been 3 years old, if that.
Okay, Joe. Okay, I've got it. Come on, Ace. You okay, mate? Come on, we'll soon have you. You carrying him back, Joe? Yeah, come on, we'll soon have you nice and warm. You all right?
I think the dog would have stayed with him. Even swimming, it would have stayed in the water with the kid. When the water rose, like, you know, I don't think the dog would have swam away then.
Nice and warm, mate. What's your dog's name, mate?
The dog was wanting to be with the kid. And my attitude at the time was, you know, they should be together, you know.
Mike, 127-814 receiving.
Just bear with me a moment. Yes, just stand by one. I won't be long. You just hang on there for a moment, okay? Running through my mind was the fact that it could be some really bad news that I would have to then go and break to Mum. So you feel apprehensive about taking the call.
7814, Mike 1.
And it's the worst part about the job, because you have to give a bit of yourself, I think, when you tell somebody that the nearest and dearest have died or that there's been a bad accident.
Yes, we had a call of a young boy being pulled out of the front of the dock.
Yes, that's received. What condition is he in?
I've no further information.
Where are you? The dog won't be parted from him, mate.
The dog just darted straight in. Well, I've been with him this long, I'm not leaving him now, sort of thing. The dog just didn't want to be separated from him all the time. Just stuck by him.
You warm up a bit? Okay.
Is he breathing?
Yeah, he's all right, love, he's all right. He's a bit cold, but he's fine.
You sigh with relief that they're there, they're alive. You want to just pick them up and kiss them and hug them.
The dog actually saved the lad's life. If it hadn't been for that dog, he wouldn't have been alive, the lad.
Max was taken home safely. The three men went back to work. They were to get awards for their bravery.
We felt like three spare pegs sort of thing. Oh, that really happened, or is it just a dream? And we just started walking off by us. You know, I was going to have this brew now, and you hadn't really sunk in what you'd done.
Christine and Luke have returned to Pomona Dock for the first time since the rescue.
It's all changed now, just in the middle there, like the mud was, but it's changed now.
Whereabouts?
Just over there. Steps were there, just down there.
And you were that far out? Right over there?
Yeah. They just saw some sand and I thought, I'm playing in it. And I was jumping in the sand, I went straight under. I couldn't get back out like that. And it did like it was squeezing, like sticking to me like glue. Craig was about 20 yards away, and Craig's riding past and was shouting him, and he just went back on. I thought, no way I'll get out. I was very shivering, shocked. I'd love to meet them, say thank you.
Sadly, not long after, Max died, but he was posthumously awarded a Blue Cross Bravery Medal for helping to save Luke's life.
When he died, I was very sad. My best friend gone.
It's hard to describe it unless you have a dog for a long time with a child and the dog dies and that it leaves a hole, and that hole will never ever be filled. Can have other dogs, but never have a dog like that again. He was one of a million, and I'll always be grateful for having him. We've got another one now, the same breed. That breed saved Luke, and I'm not taking any chances with Zoe. Zoe's 3 years of age. No way, I'm not going through that again. I'm making sure I've got my big high fencing, I've got my locks on my doors, and I've got my dog.
And if you love our visits to the airport, stay right here. There's plenty more to come next.
All new episodes of the hit US...
See and Hear is based on the accounts of the people involved. They've helped us to reconstruct events as they happened.
Joining Michael Berg for another Red Hot 999.
All of tonight's rescues are true stories. We've sometimes used actors or stuntmen, but everything you see and hear is based on the accounts of the people involved. They've helped us to reconstruct events as they happened. Tonight on 999, the moment the balloon burst and left 2 men's lives hanging by a thread. How putting the kettle on sparked off the ultimate test for the luckiest man alive. And practical advice on how you can save someone from drowning. It's extraordinary sometimes how when you think every possible safety precaution has been taken, there are still dangers that haven't been foreseen. Nobody could have predicted the bizarre accident that happened here one Easter at the Shorefields Holiday Centre in Hampshire.
Our reconstruction of the events that happened show how the lifeguards on duty in the pool fought a desperate battle against time as they tried to help 12-year-old Hayley Rogers, who's played here by an actress. They needed all their skills and training that day, but it needed 2 flashes of inspiration to save Hayley's life.
When I pick up a newspaper now, and there's a picture of a child on the front, and something terrible's happened to that child, it's frightening. You shouldn't take for granted that you're above any of these terrible things happening to you.
I spent 2 minutes of an easygoing Friday bank holiday to a scenario like that it was very surreal. You're looking out and thinking, this isn't happening, this is impossible.
Hayley! Yes? I'm going for a cup of tea. Okay. I'll be down in the lounge. All right then. Okay, don't be in the water too long. No. Bye.
Hayley and her family were on holiday, but it was one of those typical rainy Easters. Hayley spent most of her time in the indoor pool with her best friend, Pippa.
I was doing handstands, rowing ponies in the water, just knocking about, thrashing about. I was hot and so was Hayley, and we agreed that we would go to the whirlpool because it was hot. It's a bit colder in there.
Yeah, it's pretty cold.
Dad, can I go swimming, please?
No, not now. In half an hour maybe, go out and play for a little while. It's scary, really, to think that how safe we thought we were. In the morning, the little ones, my little ones had been in that same pool, probably doing exactly the same thing.
In the whirlpool, the water was moved round and around by pumps which continuously sucked the water in and blew it back out again. As Hayley ducked her head under, her long hair came closer and closer to one of the intake valves.
She started kicking me. I was just about to get up and have a go at her, and I saw that she was struggling a lot, and I tried to pull her out. She wouldn't budge. I knew something was wrong, so I started to call for help. Help! No one was listening to me, so I started shouting even more.
There were 3 lifeguards on pool duty that day. As they ran towards the sound of shouting, they were only too aware how little time someone can survive underwater.
Usually when somebody's in trouble, we can pull them straight out, and we couldn't quite understand why. You know, she couldn't come up when we pulled. I went down to have a look to see what was up, and it was then that I realised her hair was caught up inside one of the intake valves. I tried pulling her again, but I realised we might start breaking bones because of the force we were using. By this time, a minute had passed. Her struggling had become quite frantic.
Well, I better go and check on the children. Okay then, I'll be down in a minute.
My first reaction was to get to the pumps, turn them off, which I could have sworn would have released her.
Still stuck. Get an ambulance and get me some tenders as well. No!
It was quite frightening, realising that, you know, this is not working. My God, what's happening? Why can't we get her up? Her hair had twisted round with the whirlpool effect and caused a plaited rope behind the actual valve. What I had to do was get scissors, get down there and cut her out.
What's going on? There's someone stuck in the whirlpool. You're joking. No. I don't know whether it was an extra sense or what. I just went straight through the reception area and ended up within, well, a few seconds at the poolside. I started to think the worst, because if the strength of 3 or 4 men can't sort of free her, you start thinking to yourself, well, what is going to free her?
I've never really been taught to do underwater resuscitation, only above water. I went down, tried mouth to mouth, and after a few goes, I realised that she wasn't receiving this properly because I was going down and all the air was just coming out. By then, her struggling had stopped completely, and I was getting really, really worried. 2.5, 3 minutes had gone by now, and I knew it was getting very, very serious. I had to start cutting through. It was taking a fair amount of time. I was just wishing for something a lot sharper and quicker.
Hayley still wasn't getting air. John had a flash of inspiration.
Realising that the mouth wasn't working, I guessed that the only resuscitation would be the nose, like you do like a baby. But I did have thoughts going through my mind. Am I doing the right thing? I didn't know how many times I was doing it. Taking 2 breaths, one for me, one for her, down, seeing her face, still again, and then back up again. I just kept on going. I knew if I'd given up, she would die.
Everybody back! Everybody back!
It was Paul Noble, a regular at the club, who had the second moment of inspiration. He suddenly knew where he could find a sharp knife.
I'd heard people sort of talking about an accident in the pool and someone had got their head stuck. Obviously, your imagination starts to think, oh my goodness, you know, whatever's happened. And then the next thing I remember was this man barging past with a carving knife in his hand. I mean, oh my God, whatever is wrong, you know, what's going on?
Excuse me. Molly, it's Hayley. They say that she's in the pool. Come with me.
Right, nice!
I just snatched it out of his hand, dropped the scissors, and went back under and cut her out almost straight away. With one clean sweep, I actually saw the knife go up, and then she come popping up to the surface like a balloon.
Okay, straight! In!
That was brilliant. That's what we needed. Those few seconds might have made all the difference.
Down. Gently. Put your head.
Then I had this sudden thought, is she still alive? Is she just dead? Is all this effort I've tried worthless?
Hayley had spent more than 4 minutes underwater.
Got a pulse. Definite pulse. Get it open. Come on.
When I saw the state she was in, I thought, it's very much touch and go here. I gave 2 breaths, and I was absolutely amazed that she came round so quick.
Blanket. Need a blanket.
And that was just relief. You know, just...
What happened?
I started to think, all right, she's breathing, but is she brain damaged or something? You know, why isn't she answering me? I was talking to her, and she wasn't saying anything.
I'm sorry, Mum.
Oh, it was just sheer relief. All of a sudden, she was all right. It was like the minute she was born. It was just like being given a brand new baby all over again.
Dad, did you just burn all my possessions?
You mean your clothes and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Why?
Because I was cold.
Why didn't you burn your own possessions?
Because I thought I might need them.
What? Oh, well, what am I going to wear to the disco?
Right. No one is forcing you to go to a disco.
Oh,
The Golden Rules of Comedy, with 3 classic comedies per rule. Weeknights from 9 on UK TV Gold.
Oh dear. I've read people, have you? Go on, see. It looks like a car, you know, it's been driven by a boy racer. I'm the expert, right? They pay me what I tell them to. That's it.
It's just a transmission problem. It's been making a bit of a noise. That's... Now, don't worry
Well, half of them are mugs, aren't they? The punters. They don't know what goes inside of a car, and that's their problem, not mine.
Be smarter with your money with an egg card. You'll get 0% interest on balance transfers until the 1st of December 2005, and 0% interest on all purchases until the 1st of December 2005. Plus up to 10% cash back from selected online retailers. Apply now at eggdeal.com.
When the itching of athlete's foot drives you up the wall, nothing works faster than Lamisil 81% spray. In just 7 sprays, it starts to kill the fungus that causes athlete's foot and provides protection from reoccurrence for up to 2 months. Lamisil 80, effective after just 7 sprays. Nothing works faster.
1 minute I was only a couple of inches from the top. And then I was getting nearer and nearer and nearer the bottom. I kept on wishing that I'd just be able to get up. This one breath that I needed to keep me alive. Then it just went darker and darker and darker until it went black.
Hey, are you alright? It's Mummy. Talk to me. Please talk to me.
All the time I could hear my mum, but I couldn't see her. I was like half thinking that I was in heaven or something.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't realise it at first that I'd saved someone's life. And then you started thinking about it, and I'm so sort of proud I'd done something like that at such an early age.
It was like John's breaths that kept me alive. It's almost as if it's a part of them in me now. Because if they hadn't have bothered, or if they hadn't have been there, then I would have just been dead, and because of them I'm alive now. And it was just the most bravest thing that anyone could have done before.
Immediately after the accident, the centre closed the whirlpool so that the pump that caused the suction could be removed to make it safe. It's a tribute to the initiative of the lifeguards that they were able to save Haley's life under such unusual circumstances. It's the first time that underwater resuscitation is known to have been used in the United Kingdom. There's still very little known about the technique, and it should only ever be attempted as a last resort by a trained lifesaver. Let's hope that you're never in such an extreme situation. But there are some basic rules that the Royal Life-Saving Society says will help if you're ever faced with trying to rescue somebody from the water.
The first rule of life-saving is don't enter the water unless it's absolutely necessary. Always try first to reach out to the casualty from the land or throw something in to help support them. If you have to go in, it's safer to wade than to swim, and only try to tow someone to safety if you're a trained lifesaver or if the person is unconscious. If you have to resuscitate someone in the water, it's better to use mouth to nose, but you can only do this in shallow water or by holding onto something. Tilt the head back and breathe steadily and strongly into their nose, keeping their mouth closed. Then open their mouth to let the air escape. If you bring someone out, take care to support their head, then put them on their back and check for breathing and pulse. If they're breathing, put them in the recovery position. If they're not breathing or there's no pulse, start resuscitation and call for help. Many people think drowning is due to the lungs filling with water, but swallowing even a small amount can lead to suffocation. Never force water out of the stomach or lungs, but allow it to drain away naturally. Make sure you keep the airway clear and keep them warm. Whether someone's been rescued from an indoor pool or a river or lake, always take them to hospital for a checkup. They're still at risk up to 3 days later from secondary drowning. This is a form of pneumonia because water is still in the lungs and it can be fatal. Our rivers, lakes and seas are so cold, it's now thought that more people who get into difficulties die from the effects of cold than drowning. The body cools down 30 times faster in cold water than in the open air, so your temperature can drop dangerously low very quickly. Even if you're a powerful swimmer, the cold water will sap your strength and you could find yourself sinking. When the cold hits you, you may gasp and swallow water, which can make you panic. And a sudden change in temperature puts an extra strain on your heart, so be aware of the risk of heart attack. Too many people drown each year attempting rescues that are beyond them.
A dull, wet, blustery day. Not ideal conditions for ballooning, but in better weather, it's the most peaceful way to fly and enjoy the countryside. Only a few hundred pilots fly regularly in Britain, and the more experienced of them tend to take their balloons abroad, where the climate is more favourable. Ray Bailey and Alex Simpson were flying in an international competition in Spain when a video cameraman caught the moment when their tranquility was shattered, a life-threatening predicament that didn't give them time to wait for the emergency services. Ray and Alex have helped with the reconstruction, but we've used stuntmen for the incident itself.
I've been ballooning now for over 20 years, 23 years in actual fact, and I think the beauty about ballooning is the uncertainty, never knowing what is going to happen.
Ray taught him to fly. He was one of the very first of the hot air balloonists in this country. So he had a lot of experience, and he's a great guy to get to learn from.
It was the last day of a local ballooning festival. More than 50 balloons were getting ready to fly towards the Spanish town of Lerida.
The wind was a little stronger than probably we would have liked it, but it was within my parameters of flying. And so we decided that we would inflate the balloon and have a go at the task.
Ray and Alex's wives, Wendy and Pam, were to follow by road to recover the balloon.
I was navigating. Yeah, we take it in turns. One a pilot, one will navigate.
I'm going to take a little bit of height a moment. I want to get up the right. When you're flying with other balloons, you've got to be very aware. You've got to be aware of what's to the right, to the left, underneath you, and above you. The hardest thing, of course, is knowing what's above you, because your vision is definitely restricted.
Several balloonists have already lost their lives in mid-air collisions that have ripped open the thin fabric because they couldn't see immediately above them.
You see, if you look at the other balloons, they're all going to the right of the church.
Yeah,
what we're going to need to do is, in fact, to get to the church, and then we want to go low.
It was a competition to fly to a target in the town centre, called a key grab. They put a set of car keys high on a pole. The first pilot to grab them wins a car.
That's a very difficult competition. Very exciting being allowed to fly low over a city, which you can't do in England.
The target was placed in the town because balloons cause a spectacle, and so therefore they wanted a little bit of action, I think, and therefore they wanted the balloons to fly reasonably low so that people could see them.
But there were a number of hazards around the town centre, and steering towards the prize, some balloons were already flying dangerously low.
It looks like there's some cranes there. As we neared the city, and we could see a building site close to the target with some construction site cranes. There was one low down on our left. It must have taken our attention because what we hadn't seen was a crane above us on higher ground, and very unusually we were flying so low that we had a crane higher than us ahead of us.
All of a sudden I noticed this large tower crane.
Bloody hell!
Nice, Ray, we're going to
hit that jib.
Ray, pull a rip. We might just get under that.
I thought I had actually missed it, and by pulling the rip line,
Go on, pull it harder.
venting out some hot air,
Hold on.
I thought I'd made it. And then I managed to look up just at the point to see the black shadow, in actual fact, of the jib passing over the top of the envelope.
And then all of a sudden the balloon dented. And then it just slashed the fabric. The crane came right into the balloon, very high up.
What did concern me was that how well was I hooked onto the actual jib itself.
Okay.
Down, will you?
In fact, the crane was only hooked through the thin balloon material.
The jib of the crane started to swing over the building site. I think the wind had caught the balloon. And I looked down and I realised that if ever we fell off that crane, there's just no way we're going to survive it.
Oh, Christ, Alex, hold on, Ray. What have we...
The balloon continued to tear until it settled onto one of the webbing tapes that hold it together. The ripping stopped, but for how long?
Well, let's get these tanks unstrapped.
Right, okay.
And let's get the weight over the side.
Make sure there's no one underneath us when they go out. Okay. Give us a hand. Right, make sure there's no one down there, Ray.
No, okay, over we go. We had to do something. We really had to activate assistance ourselves. We saw a couple of, I think, local Spaniards
come over.
I tried to call to them with the indication to pull the whole lot round
Swing us round. Over to the right.
onto the very steep side of the slope. In fact, it didn't work that way because the local help that was down there started to pull on the rope.
Right.
Not to pull us to the right, but to try and pull us off the crane.
They're going to have us off here if we're not careful.
And I thought, good God, you know, this is not really what I want. The whole thing lurched down, and you think then, you know, this is it. It's just going to all tear away, and the whole lot's going to plummet to the ground. Eventually, they got the gist of what we wanted, and they clambered with the line and took it up this rock face. And I can remember seeing the rock face coming towards us, and I thought, we're nearly there, we're nearly there. And then we hit the rock.
After a chase through Spanish traffic, Wendy and Pam got there in time to share Ray and Alex's relief.
When I got out of the basket, I felt very elated. But 3 or 4 days later, it hit me hard then. I suddenly realised, you know, just how close we'd been. Didn't feel so good then.
I think the incident has affected me in terms of it made us perhaps very much more of a team.
My great friendship with Ray was a tremendous help on the day. We got away with it, learned a lot that day. Just hope we don't have to put those what we learned to future use.
Over the next 5 weeks on 999, we'll be featuring the work of a life-saving unit that's unique in Britain. It's called the Helicopter Emergency Medical Service, or HEMS for short, and it was set up 5 years ago here at the Royal London Hospital as a way of getting doctors directly to the scene of an emergency, equipped to do pretty much everything that's normally only possible in a hospital. They can even do open-heart surgery by the side of the road. Each week, Juliet Morris will be introducing us to the people who make the service work.
The HEMS unit only attends the most serious incidents. It's always a matter of life and death. When the call comes through, Mark here scrambles the frontline crew. Dr. Gareth Davies, paramedic Alan Norman, and 2 pilots. They can be airborne within 2 minutes, and at the scene of any emergency within the M25 only minutes later. Their patch covers more than 600 square miles and 7 million people. Over the next 2 weeks, we'll see how they and the backup team from the hospital saved the life of Danny Cole, a construction worker from Bracknell in Berkshire. What you're about to see isn't a reconstruction, but the actual events recorded as they happened by a 999 camera crew and shown now with Danny's permission.
It became obvious to me that patients didn't suddenly become ill just as they came through the front doors of the hospital. I had a belief that we should actually be trying to take the hospital to the patients in these sort of individuals, people in bad car crashes, people trapped in crashes, so that they can actually get the sort of treatment they would inside a hospital out there in the streets.
It's a chap that's supposedly been run over by a tractor. He's been removed from underneath the tractor. We're not exactly sure of his injuries.
It's actually due east to Bromley Station.
When they get a call, the pilot's first job is to find a suitable place to land, close to the accident. In this case, it's someone's back garden, just a short run to the building site.
There you go. All right, thanks, guys.
Great shot. So.
All right, just relax, Dan. You're doing great, son. Keep going, Dan. Grip your hand, Dan. All right, mate. Okay.
Do you want to just leave that for now and get ready for an anaesthetic?
He's been coughing up blood since he started. Okay, Dan, you're doing fine. Okay. All of it, all the way up.
Danny,
How old is he?
needle in the back of your hand now.
Just relax.
How old is he?
Okay, Danny. How old are you, Dan, roughly? 40. 40.
Can we change that for a reservoir mask? Every job that we go to, whether it's a suicide, a car crash, a stabbing, I basically approach in the same way. When we get the patient, we simply go through A, B, C, which is making sure that the patient's got a patent airway, that they haven't swallowed their tongue, that they are breathing properly and sending oxygen to their brain, and the C is they have a good circulation and a good blood pressure. Right, Danny, I'm going to give you some medicine now that's going to send you off to sleep and take your pain away, all right? And we'll wake you up in the hospital, all right? You'll feel it going in now. Yeah, we'll do that.
Before he's put into the helicopter, Danny's breathing is taken over by a ventilator to keep his condition stable during the flight.
Start to move over that way, and we'll put the two scoop down either side. We need to chest drain that side. Okay?
Slice it slowly up. Slowly across. Slowly across.
Hi, it's Gareth here. We've got a male approximately 50 years of age who's been run over by a bulldozer, effectively. He has a massive crush injury to his chest with bilateral hemopneumothoraces. He's been intubated and ventilated. Doesn't appear to have any injuries that I can define at the moment, but he is hemodynamically unstable from his chest. We're going to airlift him back to you with an ETA of probably about 15, yeah, ETA of about 15 to 20. Okay, see you in a bit. Bye.
You're clear, and the wind is estimated to be southwesterly less than 10. That's it.
Same as before.
From the building site in Kent, it takes just 7 minutes to airlift Danny back to the helipad on the roof of the Royal London Hospital.
Bring the ambu bag, would you?
Gareth Davies has already radioed ahead to a medical team waiting to receive Danny in the trauma room.
You coming down? One take. Yeah, no, somebody's getting that. When we got to him, he was alert and orientated, pupils equal and active to light, moving all 4 limbs. He had a massive anterior flail and was very dyspneic. His abdomen is soft and hasn't distended up. His pelvis seems intact. He's been hemodynamically unstable with his systolics dropping to 40 and has had a total of 3.5 litres of fluid.
Could we, before the chest drain goes in, get the patient off the vacuum mat? So, nurse 1, can you sort out the team?
Right, need lifters for a direct lift.
Basically, all the patients that are brought in by helicopter are brought down into this room via a lift. And this is a room in the casualty department where all the specialists in the hospital group together to receive the patient.
And you're going to need to come and help lift me.
Nurse 1 in charge for the lift.
The Royal London Hospital trauma team is a big step up from a normal casualty department. It's been designed to cope with the most serious injuries, so that within minutes they assess Danny's condition and start treating him.
This sort of injury can have catastrophic complications because he's crushed the ribs have gone in and they've lacerated his lungs, and his heart sits behind this breastbone, which has been crushed as well, so he may have damaged his heart. We're draining the air and the blood out of both sides of his chest so that his lungs can expand completely, and we need to replace blood with blood, and that's what you can see that's hanging up on the side there.
Chest X-ray. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
He needs a multidisciplinary hospital for this sort of injury. He may well have damaged his pelvis. It doesn't look that way. I haven't seen the x-rays. I didn't think he had it seen. But you need this sort of rapid response in the first hour.
Next week, Dr. Gareth Davies follows Danny's progress through intensive care to full recovery.
It must be the nightmare for every parent, babysitter or creche leader. A child in your care develops a very high fever and, worse still, starts having convulsions. These febrile convulsions are quite common in the under fives, and although they're rarely dangerous if they're properly managed, they can still be very alarming. This week's 999 Lifesavers are Ellen and Adam Cooney from Coventry. They often babysit their 18-month-old granddaughter, but they were totally unprepared for what happened one evening. Ellen takes up the story.
Well, we were babysitting, as grandparents usually do, for Hannah. Hannah was fine, and we put her to bed at 8 o'clock. It wasn't until later on that evening that Adam thought, when we went to bed, that he heard something wrong with the baby. Something's wrong. The noise was very unusual. First of all, he thought it was a nightmare, and then it was like a gurgling noise at the back of the throat, like as if she was choking. I got water splashed on her face. I couldn't wake her up. I tried to wake her up, and I just couldn't wake her up. You know, I just didn't know what was wrong with her. I shouted for Adam. He came in, he took her off me, and realised that she was distressed. She was blue around the eyes and mauve around the mouth. Her temperature was so high. We were looking at it, we didn't know what was happening, we didn't know what to do. I felt terrible. Adam dialed 999, handed me the phone, because he needed his hands to deal with the baby. He was given her mouth to mouth, doing everything he possibly could, because he's a trained first aider. I was in a terrible state, really in a terrible state. You just can't imagine how difficult it was standing there looking at your own grandchild that could be dead, and there's nothing you could do about it. When the paramedics got there, we were very relieved, because we knew that they'd know what was wrong. They said it was a feeble convulsion she was having, and we asked what that was. And they said it's when the body temperature gets too high, and a feeble convulsion comes in, and you've got to get the temperature down as fast as you can. They told us to soak a towel in water and bring it in soaking, and they wrapped her up in that. Apparently, that's one of the ways of getting the temperature down as fast as you can. She's very bright, and she's a lovely, bubbly little girl. We only hope that if somebody else has this happen to them, that they will know how to cope with it, because we've been very lucky, I think.
Take a ride before bedtime. Top Gear, Car Heaven at 11, tonight on UK TV People.
I'm going to do this equity release thing. Get some of the money tied up in our home and live the high life. Jet off to New York, breakfast at Tiffany's, a spot of shopping. I'll put up the cash for a one-woman show. First Broadway, then the world. Mind, I might need a little nip and tuck. Bob's your uncle. I look like a real model. A waxwork model more like. All right, I'm getting a bit carried away. The money would come in useful, though. Help us see the grandkids right. Treat ourselves a little.
If you think releasing equity from your home could make sense for you, call Norwich Union to arrange to talk to one of our experienced advisors. Phone free on 0800 015 3050.
Usually, when the emergency services are called out, they'll know next to nothing of the situation they'll be faced with. Often a difficult job is made even harder because they have to work with people they don't know in unfamiliar surroundings to save the lives of complete strangers. But when disaster struck a small Scottish fishing village, everybody rallied round to save somebody who suddenly needed help. The fact that everyone knew everyone else and was used to working together almost certainly made the difference between life and death.
For as long as anyone can remember, the villagers along the east coast of Scotland have made their living from fishing. Anstruther is no exception, a close-knit community where people can rely on each other in a crisis. By extraordinary coincidence that day, the lifeboat crew were already assembled, carrying out trials on their new boat.
During the last 3 or 4 years, we're trying to raise money to buy a new lifeboat to replace the old Oakley-class lifeboat. So it's quite a big occasion for the town.
Another coincidence, it was the local doctor's day off, so he wasn't out on his rounds, he was just a few hundred yards away.
It was a nice quiet day, and I was just off to the bank to get some money out of the autocash machine.
Heather Anderson was going to see her husband Alec. He'd been working on his fishing boat.
Yeah?
How you doing?
You want a cup of tea?
Well, there's no milk, mine.
Or we can get some from the coop then.
All right. I'll just do the kettle on.
He told me there was no milk, so I had to go over to the shop to buy milk, and that's where I was.
Alec didn't know there was a gas leak on his boat.
I turned round to see the boat exploding into the air. The total heap of firewood, the timbers in the sky and starting to fall down again. The whole noise of the timbers falling was incredible. It was just as loud as the actual explosion itself.
I knew that something was seriously wrong, and I just knew it was the boat because there was nothing else behind the harbour master office. I looked over and seen the mess. It was terrible.
The boat just split open like a kipper. The wheelhouse, which was the only part that was still intact, seemed to go up in the air and just come straight back down again. Fortunately enough, it had not gone on fire, but I knew there must be somebody in it. I couldn't think anybody could survive the explosion.
I don't think I was really taken in what was happening. It was like I wasn't there. I just didn't feel it was happening to me. I just stood and looked at everyone else.
I saw his hand, only his hand.
You hear me in there? You feel me touching your hand?
And that's all I could touch, and that's all I could see. I could not see his face or anything else.
Are you on your own? Is anybody else with you? Pete, is anybody down there? Yes, there is, Chris. It's okay. I've got a hold of his hand here. And he's talking to me. He seems to go on his own as well. It's Alec Landis. Heather's Alec. Can you move your hand for me? Okay. I'm just going to have a wee look at your arm here. Way around. Just going to move some wood. All right, Chris, just careful. It's shifting.
Every time we took a piece of wood out, it became more unstable, and as the wreckage moved, it hurt Alec a little bit, and he was in pain.
Right, Alec, this is going to hurt a wee bit. Shift that bit here. Watch his horns.
Gradually, though, we managed to move away the woodwork. We found more of his arm, more of his hand, more of his face.
I can't feel my legs, right? Okay. I can't see your legs there. Can you see if you can move your toes?
At that point, it seemed as his back was injured, possibly even broken, and the fact that he couldn't move his legs might have meant he was paralysed.
There was no way we could get him out at this stage because there was no exit for him. He was just entombed underneath this wreckage.
Tom, your phone Miller's a minutes for a crane. So we can get this wedged up. Yeah, get a wedge under here. Another wedge.
The lifeboatmen realised they'd have to stabilise the wreckage and set up a rope sling to lift what was left of the wheelhouse in one complete section. The first fire brigade team to arrive was the Anstruther Retained Force, all local volunteers who not only knew the lifeboat crew well, but were also familiar with boats and the way they're built. They were soon joined by a local paramedic team who brought in more equipment, including Entonox and anaesthetic gas.
Take this in your good hand, okay? And if you hold it tight on your face and take some deep breaths in and out, that will help the pain for you.
It was very difficult when you were working underneath. There wasn't much room to move, and the nails were sticking in from all directions. It was quite claustrophobic. I'd worked with most of the people involved on a regular basis, and I think this feeling of trust between everybody just made it so much easier for us to deal with the situation. I knew if there was any problems, they would help me out.
I was working on the crane in a nearby village. It was about 5 miles away, and I got a phone call and asked to get to Anstruther as fast as I possibly could.
Hello, can I help you?
There's a man under here, you're going to get that hook over and we'll get this water.
More fire crews now began to arrive, led by the area divisional officer Douglas Welsh.
Normally, when you're attempting to rescue someone, it's very seldom that you can make the situation worse. But the structure that was above Alec was so unstable that the danger was that during the lifting operation, that the structure would fail and fall back on top of Alec and increase his injuries.
I just thought to myself, oh my God, when are we going to get out of this? I just took myself off everybody round about me, and I just focused on this boat and it coming out of it. That's all I thought about.